Reading is good. Everyone knows that. But will building a habit of it actually do anything? Hello, my name's Haley and I love reading, but most of my reading is done with fiction and fantasy. But this summer I wanted to get into the nonfiction and science world of things and wanted to see what would happen if I read an essay every day. Now I want to be clear, this is in no way going to be a scientific video or a very in-depth study, even on my own learning. I did in fact do all the reading in July and August of 2025, and it is now April of 2026. But I'm hoping that with time brings more insight. And also my definition of essay, I guess, is very loose. I'm just kind of using that word, but it's really just like essay, article, any like nonfiction thing. As this went on, it very much derailed to just like anything I could get myself to read, which maybe is a precursor for how this is about to go. But before I kind of expand on that, let's get into some of the hard facts that I learned. Throughout the 30 days, I read a variety of material from sports to shark to just general literacy or media or even political happenings. And there will be a link below with every single article I read. But some of the most interesting things that I learned are that you're likely getting enough protein, but like it's definitely not a bad thing to increase your protein intake. And the study I read did say you should increase it as you age. But like, if you're just an everyday person, you're probably fine with your protein intake. Another really interesting article I read was about the pros and cons of reality TV and how there's basically pros and cons to everything in life. And with things like reality TV, there are a lot of good things that can come out of it, like building community and can help raise awareness on some sensitive topics. Probably my favorite thing that I learned is that one of the main ways misinformation spread is through repeated use. So if something is repeated to you like multiple times, you're likely to believe it more, even if it is false. During this time, I also read a lot for my literacy video. I'm not gonna re-go into everything that I learned for that. I would just recommend you click on this video because I go into a lot more of the scientific things there. In language, a lot of slang or abbreviations that we use nowadays have really just been like passed down and changed slightly over time. And then also, one of the most prominent to this video is that understanding mostly just comes from your memory, which also ties back to the whole misinformation thing. But that's all just kind of like a surface level of what I've learned. And I feel like a lot of people might think that one of the main things you are supposed to take away from reading, especially nonfiction reading, is those hard facts. If you read about sharks, the way you're gonna benefit is by increasing your knowledge of sharks. And I'm not saying that you won't learn shark facts by reading about sharks, of course you will. But most of the benefits from reading don't just come from picking up information, as learning new information can also just happen from any type of consumption. Like you can learn shark facts from watching a YouTube video. So it might seem that reading something on shark facts and watching something on shark facts will give you the same benefit. But the thing is, the benefits from reading and what you really gain from it, and this whole idea that reading makes you smarter, isn't just from the fact that you learn things through reading, but also just in my own experience, most of those facts that I was just talking about, I didn't actually remember. Like most of them I had to go through my old notes to find the things I thought were most interesting to talk about. But instead, this benefit of reading comes from something else, which I will get into in a bit. But first, I want to share 2 quotes from this 30 days of reading that I kind of bookmarked and wanted to share. The first one comes from an article titled, "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" And it reads, "When we read online," she says, "we tend to become mere decoders of information. Our ability to interpret text, to make rich mental connections that form when we read deeply and without distraction, remains largely disengaged." The second quote comes from an article titled, "The Dead Internet Theory Enters Phase 2 as Dark Patterns Emerge." And it reads, "AI is meant to agree with us and serve us. It doesn't have any actual awareness that allows it to develop a moral compass, social awareness, or most importantly, empathy, which would stop it from harming people." And I bring up these 2 quotes in particular because with the literacy crisis and the rise of technology coming to make our life easier, it may seem like the only thing we have to do to help is to read more. Like if people just take in more information, if we just start consuming more educational content instead of just like entertainment content, things will get better. If they cut out the time of actually reading an article and instead just get a sentence summary where they can learn everything from it, that will fix it. If everyone goes through a month-long journey of reading an article every day, things will get better. But the thing is, we are reading. We are taking in information. Of course, it's to varying degrees for everyone, but you likely read social media posts. You may even look up an article from the news and read a few paragraphs about it. You read texts from friends, emails, maybe information about a new prescription. By definition, you are reading. You are taking in new things. You scroll on TikTok and get exposed to thousands of new ideas in the span of a single minute. And yes, people can still do it more. I'm not saying that no one is complicit in this. I just feel like it's important to call this out because I think that things can get very conflated within this literacy or like reading or technology conversation, because it can feel like a very all or nothing. Like people are like, no one is reading, no one is doing anything anymore. And I think it's important to really explain and explore what is actually happening and what people are doing so we can understand why that isn't working. Instead of just saying what people are doing is wrong. Because you may see people say, oh, everyone needs to read more, no one's reading, no one's, learning things. And so you watch like a history debuff video, which is fine. Great. I was actually gonna say that's a lot better for you than like other types of content, but I actually don't know. And I'd be very interested to see, does anyone have any information on that? Have studies been done on the effects of your brain on like educational content versus entertainment content? Is there a difference? That's interesting. Let me know in the comments. Cause like I would assume, and I feel like a lot of people do assume that like, I feel like a lot of people see things like that are labeled or that are deemed educational to be a bit more highbrow. If you're reading an article on the history of certain flags, that's better for you than reading an article on the new Bachelorette drama, which is complex, and I don't think I can fully answer that in this video. But one of the things I did learn is that the main way to make sure you are getting something out of reading is by engaging with it. So I guess the main question would be, can your brain engage the same or within the same capacity when doing history stuff versus reality TV drama? And I'm just using those two things as like examples, which seems way too complex to research in the middle of filming this. So we're gonna push that to the comments if you have thoughts or ideas about that. In this video, I more so wanted to explore my own thoughts and my own experience with this 30-day challenge. Sorry for the derailment. I kind of got lost in my own thoughts and my own questions there, which is good. But anyway, back to this challenge. In my literacy video, I talked about how reading and literacy aren't the same thing, and how literacy is about being able to comprehend material and information. And the key thing here, and what I saw throughout my 30 days, is that engagement is really a key factor and would really change my experience and understanding and kind of outtake of whatever I was reading. I was reading the most like basic articles on how colors like got their names, or how like the abbreviation Mr. came to be, or I think it was Vogue article about Pedro Pascal that everyone was going crazy over in the summer. But I personally felt like I got more out of those than on some of those like 20-page studies I was reading. And I'll start this next rant here by saying that all reading is important. If you are taking away anything from this video, or I mean even any of my content ever, it is you probably should be reading more. However, I'll say what I learned from this is that reading things you like and that you're going to engage with is going to be more beneficial to you than just any old scholarly article. And if you love reading long studies and in-depth analysis, go for it. I love that for you. And we all probably should be doing more of that as well, like challenging yourself while reading, and reading difficult topics or reading longer pieces is important. So I'm not saying to just read popcorn material. I'm just saying to maybe find longer scholarly research papers or stuff that relate to the topic you like. Like I would 100% read like a 100-page research paper about sharks. I'm surprised I didn't do that in this 30 days actually. Wild. I felt like at the beginning I was reading a lot of stuff on sharks. So kind of towards the end I was like, I should diversify this a bit. But the important thing is to find and read what you like. And then you can find ways to challenge yourself within that. Because once again, it's not about the hard fact. It's not just about reading the words on a page and like glancing over them, and sure, you're reading it, but you're not processing it. I'd almost say it's like reading something in a different language. Like, I could show you something written in German, and if you don't know German, you could read it, as in you can glance at the words and maybe make sense of what sounds they would make and how they would sound, but you don't understand it. You don't know what it's saying, and so you can't actually engage with it. You could read the word "the" typed over 1,000 pages, and yeah, technically reading, but like, that's not gonna help. That's why I brought up the quote from the Dead Internet Theory article. Reading a generalized summary just because it cuts down on the reading time and gives you all the facts isn't gonna give you those holy grail benefits of reading. And I guess that I'm kind of using reading in a very loose sense here. Let's actually look up the definition of reading, because I like assume I'm using it in a loose sense, but I actually don't know what the direct definition. Okay. The first definition is the skill or activity of getting information from books. Definition 2 is an occasion when something written, especially a work of literature, is spoken to an audience, for example, in a poetry reading. Definition 3 is as an understanding, the way in which you understand something, as in my reading of the situation. The definition from Oxford Language is the activity or skill of looking at and comprehending the material of written or printed matter by interpreting the characters or symbols of which it is composed. So I think I'm technically using it to its definition. We would be missing the comprehension part of reading, but I guess that's kind of what this whole video is about, is looking at that. I think you understand what I mean. Which one of my favorite things a professor said to me was how, like, English or writing is just a form of communication, and that if the person you're talking to understands you, or if you understand something someone else is saying, then that, conversation, that piece of writing served its purpose. And specifically, they were saying that in regards to people being like super sticklers on grammar or on using exact definitions, right? It's like, if you use the wrong "your," I understand what you're saying. Probably gonna annoy me, but I understand what you're saying. But in regards to these benefits of reading, most of them actually come from sitting with and understanding and really taking the time to dive into material. Now, most of the studies kind of done on this topic are done in children, where they study cognitive engagement with reading, but they all find that material that the children connect with more makes them more likely to look up what certain words mean, ask questions, or most importantly, keep reading. But all of this kind of goes back to the main thing I probably learned from this video, is how doing things in small steps, but meaningful steps, is a lot better than doing one big thing all at once. Like, I would have learned a lot less and probably had a lot worse of a time if I tried to read 30 articles in one day. Partly because a lot of what I read came from inspiration in my life, right? I was having a conversation with my friends about something, and I would look up an article on it and read it. But now, I'm not gonna sit here and say that this 30 days of reading was easy, or that for every single article I read, I was fully engaged. Like, some days I just read an article and that was that. But the pattern and the routine and forcing myself to do it helped to push me through those days where I wasn't as engaged, and made it so that when I was in a conversation about colors, I was like, oh, let me look up an article and make this my reading of the day. It kind of kept me aware of my own thoughts, of what I was finding interesting in the world around me and what I might want to look up more or learn more about. And now, I'm not sure how concise all of my thoughts here were, or if I did a good job explaining some of my points, and so I'm very sorry for that. This experiment took me a lot longer than I thought, as I said. So I've been sitting on some of these thoughts and this analysis for a while. And so I guess I should also call out that not all of this analysis came from me doing those 30 days of reading. That was just kind of a challenge I wanted to do, and then the rest of these thoughts are either things I've had or just, things that sort of connect to it. But I guess I'll kind of wrap it up by saying that these benefits of reading and this engagement comes in part by finding things you like and by pushing yourself to sometimes read when you don't want to. And I am not reading an essay every day still in my day-to-day life. These 30 days didn't dramatically change me or make me insanely smarter, but it was fun to push myself to finish. And I did read a lot of interesting articles. And I guess I'll leave on this idea that you can learn something new every day, but only if you're open to learning. Now anyway, that is the end of this video. Make sure to leave your thoughts and comments and anything I might have left unaddressed or unquestioned down below. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.